Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. I've got goodies from Sequre here, who reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to look at some of our new stuff? And I was like, yes, please. So I've got one of their soldering irons and also their recently released hot tweezers here. These are probably going to be in a separate video, so keep an eye out for this. The hot tweezers are new, but this soldering iron is the S99 and has actually been around for a while. But I requested one of these to review as well, specifically because it's a soldering iron that I've been recommending to people without having actually used myself. So the S99 is an electronic soldering iron, much like the old Miniware TS100, or for more modern tastes, the Pine 64 Pinesil. So these are USB powered soldering irons. They both take a Type-C input, and they have temperature control and everything else on a little on screen with the buttons and so on, and interchangeable tips. So these are really, really good hobbyist soldering irons because they provide a lot of versatility without the bulk and expense of a big old soldering station. And while a lot of people look at these electronic soldering irons as toys, but you can use these up to a professional level. You know, I was using a Pinesil for a lot of my MacBook board repair work, all the way up until recently when I got an Adamant station. So they're not to be underestimated, these electronic irons. Now, one of the drawbacks of the TS100 and Pine 64 irons is the tips they take. They have these interchangeable tips and the element is in the tip, so you get great performance, but it is kind of proprietary, so you've got a bit of a limited selection of tips. What makes the S99 interesting is that it takes the JBC 245 cartridge. So I'll just pop this one out the box here. So anyone who's seen a JBC before will recognize this cartridge. So that guy slots into there, and now we have an electronic soldering iron that you can put a JBC tip into. So you can buy these with Sequre tips, and the Sequre tips will be perfectly adequate for general DIY and hobbyist stuff. But if you ever want to get serious, the ability to put in any of the JBC tips makes for a really powerful combo. And I can attest to this because my daily driver soldering iron is an Adamant T3B, and this takes the JBC 210 cartridge, which is a smaller version. So, and I actually run JBC tips in mine because they are very, very good tips. They are about 50 quid or $50 a shot, but if you're working at a professional level, these tips are incredible. You get better heat transfer, they're more reliable, they last longer, and everything. And of course, there's just a billion different tips that you can buy for whatever your requirements are. So any of these low-cost soldering irons that can take the high-quality JBC tips become a really interesting proposition to me. So with that being said, let's just take a look at what else came in this kit, and then we'll take this for a quick test drive. So, also in the kit that we've got a 65 watt Type-C power delivery charger. This is a nice one. It's 65 watts with a Type-C power delivery output and a quick charge 3 Type-A output as well, which is a nice touch. I like it when you get power supplies that have a lot of utility on them, so you can do lots of things with them. So it's got the American flip down thing there, which I can't flip down. There we go, American one, or my ones come with the UK plug, which slots on thusly. So I'll stick that back in there for now. I'm going to use my one just for convenience. Got one of these nasty little stand things. These are, I wouldn't call this a professional solution, but it does the job, basically. We've got a little cleaning sponge there and a little rest to put it on, just so you've got somewhere to rest, a little stand to rest the iron on when you're not using it. Then up in the top, we've got a individually wrapped in QR code to access the manual. Thanks. We've got a Type-C braided cable. That looks like that lights up or something. That looks cool. I might plug this one in just for the sake of seeing it light up, because I like things that light up. Then we've got a XT60 to Type-C adapter. Now this is kind of useful because this solves the problem of the S99 not having a barrel jack on it. The Pinesil, we've got a DC barrel jack on, so you can just plug that into just dumb DC sources. However, if you've got Type-C only, you can't do that. But in this case, we've got an adapter here for XT60, so you could fashion up a XT60 to barrel jack or something like that or you could just plug in just a drone battery into that. Have I got one to hand? No, I don't have one to hand, but you could plug in an XT60 battery there, no problem. And now you've got a DC power source to Type-C. And then finally, they've sent me a little spool of lead-free solder as well. Thank you very much. Cool. So let's put all of that in there and let's fire it up. Then I made a slight cock up when Sequre asked me what tip I wanted with it. I said, send me the K tip, not realizing that this is a big K tip, not to be confused with a KU tip, which is the one that I daily drive. So yeah, this guy's pretty enormous, but you know, these things are targeted at people who are doing drone repairs in the field. If you're out flying DIY drones and you crash one and need to do some emergency repairs, a big tip like this is going to be your best friend if you're having to do big solder blobs onto ESCs and stuff like that. This is too big for the kind of application I have, but they do sell it with other tips as well. You can get a B1 conical tip. They've also got an I tip, which is a point, or you can get a BC2, which is the sort of the flat conical one. And they've also got a kit that comes with all the tips as well. So the base price of the iron with one of the tips comes in at $27.50. You can get it with all the tips for $42, or the kit that I've got here that comes with the power supply, the cables, the stand, and this cool carry case, which is a nice carry case. I like this. That comes in at $51.50, which I think is actually cracking value for money. I thought it was going to be more than that, if I'm honest. So yeah, I think that's a good value proposition. And once again, as a reminder, you can shove a JVC tip into that and get a professional level iron. Of course, you know, it's at 65 watts, it's not going to be the same as a JVC station. However, for most applications, in my experience, wattage isn't the be-all and end-all. It's all about the delivery of the heat. Having good heat delivery, which is all done in the tip, that's what really matters in my opinion. So just it being 65 watts and not 90 watts or 120 watts, I wouldn't be too put off by that, to be honest. You'll be surprised what you can do with 65 watts. I've pre-moistened my sponge. This might be the worst sponge I've ever encountered, however, it'll do. If you're serious about soldering, you should probably get something a bit better than this, but it's perfectly fine as a starter kit that gives you what you need to get going. So let's put that there. And let's plug this bad boy in. Ooh, it beeped at me. Sweet. All right. Let's have a little look around the menus. So the power delivery cable has a little light on it when it's got power. I quite like cables that have a power light on them. It just lets you know if the cable is hot or not, which is kind of handy because if the light is on, you know there's actually 20 volts there, and etc. So yeah, it's kind of neat. Right. So we've got a really nice looking interface here. There's a lot of detail here just on the home screen alone, which is cool. We've got the current temperature. That looks 300. I'm guessing that's our set temperature. Stop. I'm guessing that means we're not heating. And it also shows us that we're on AC power at 20.2 volts, which is cool. So typically on an iron like this, the first button would be used to start heating. No? Okay, what about that one? Nope. Okay, it looks like we're setting the temperature here. So let's go 350 degrees and hold it down. Work. There we go. And we're heating. All right, so that heat up time is pretty good. Wow. Okay. Looks like it bounced off of some wacky temperatures there. I saw it bounce past 400 then. That's a hell of an overshoot for 350 set. But it doesn't really matter. That looks like that's settled nicely now. So 2 buttons to rest. Yep, stop. There we go. So it looks like we're cooling down to 280 maybe. Yes, that's an idle temperature. How about just nothing at all? Yeah, okay, and then I held it down and now we're actually cooling down to cold. So those are the basic controls. So what if I hold down this button? Okay, cool. Iron, idle, OLED, volt, calib, and about. All right, let's have a look in iron. 2 buttons. Hold. There we go. Working temperature, temp steps, temp compensation, temp unit, temp shield, buzzer, start heat. So that probably means it starts heating as soon as you plug it in or something like that. Oh, that timed out a bit quick. Turbo sets. Okay, yeah, we've got a turbo button. That would be a boost mode. So boost mode is when you hold down a button and it will boost up to another set temperature. So if you're soldering at, say, 350 degrees, you hold a button and it will boost up to 400 degrees if you hit a ground plane and you need a bit of extra help. Definitely useful on lower power irons like this. So yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. Idle. So there's our sleep time and sleep temp. So after 60 seconds, it will drop to 50C. Idle time, 360. Sensitivity, so how sensitive it is to being jogged. So, if you're out in the field, if it's on a desk, any movement, it will wake up. If you're out in the field, you might want to actually give it a shake for it to wake up. Can we have the menu back? Yeah. So that's cool. What's in OLED? Brightness, direction, key action, language, yeah, stuff like that. Okay. I like the interface for this. It's really concise. Usually you don't get as much detail on the screen at one time. This is super modern. What's in Volt? Power mode, protocol, yep, so you can set what power and protocols it supports. And you can low volt there, that's handy. If you're running this on a battery, you can tell it to cut out if the battery reaches a certain voltage, so you don't knacker your battery. Then, yeah, calibration is going to be to calibrate the temperature, and about it's probably information about what we've got here. So this is PD3, Q input, maximum, fine, hardware, revision, etc. Cool. All right, that's a nice modern looking menu. I like it. Let's do some soldering with it. So I've got this circuit board here. This actually came in earlier on today, very conveniently. This is a card access system that someone brought in, and the USB port on it is extremely loose. So you can see that the anchors have snapped there where there's just not really a lot of support on there. So that's no bueno. So we're going to take this off and I'm going to put this new USB port on. So I would do like some MacBook soldering and stuff like that, but I'll level with you. This tip is way too big to be working on a laptop with. So I'm just going to demonstrate this. Like, you don't need me to tell you that it can melt solder. So this is more of a showcase of the iron and to show you the principles. Like I said, my main point of interest is the type of power delivery it uses, the kind of build quality, and the fact that it's using these JBC tips. That's why I was interested in this thing. So let's fix a thing with it. I'm going to grab a vise and put this in it. I've put my Paul Daniels USB Type-C power meter on screen so you can see what kind of power draw these things give. It's not particularly relevant, but you guys might find that interesting to see. I'll flow some fresh solder onto here, and then that'll make it easier to flow. So let's hold down a button to heat. There we go, work. And we're now heating up. So yeah, that's pulling a pretty solid 3.5 amps. So yeah, that works out as 65 watts unless I'm mistaken. And you can see the pulses in the current draw there, where it's just pulsing the heat on and off. So yeah, it's a pretty sharp on-off motion there. Oh, I might need to actually tin this tip because it's the first time it's been used. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just flow some fresh solder on and then just wipe it down. Okay, this is why we don't like sponges, folks. It kind of works. It's good enough. There we go. That's that out. Now I'll just use some wick just to pull these holes clear. big tip go raw. Lovely. And we need to clear these anchors as well. I'm going to use up about 10,000 yards of wick doing this. Come on, we're going to soak straight through that without wetting it? Yeah, easy, no problem. Rather than going through all of this wick to soak all of this up, normally I would use my desoldering gun, but we're showcasing. So that was 350 degrees there, and we were going through big solder blobs there. If I'd gone up a bit hotter to, like, 380, we would have sliced through those a bit more. However, it's very easy to get into the habit of using way more heat than you need to. So, set you down there for a sec. Okay, now our new port should just slot into there. Nice, that's pretty flush. So we'll just flood fill one of the anchors and then make sure that that's down properly. So again, I'm going to stay at 350 degrees here and just see how it handles bigger blobs. We've got a nice big solder, we've got a nice big tip on this, so we should have no issues with that. Cool, and let's just hold that flat. Cool. Looking good. Let's do the other ones, and then we'll just touch up the top for some extra strength. Now, to make sure this doesn't suffer the same fate as the old one, I'm going to put some massive solder blobs on the top side here. So it's got a load of just mechanical strength attaching it to the board. This is where having an oversized tip is actually extremely handy, because you can just tell it to shove off. There we go. Clean the tip up. There we go. We've got some nice big solder blobs on each side now, and we're soldered on the bottom. So I'll just attack this with a brush and some alcohol just to get rid of the flux residue, and then we're done. There we go. The conformal coating on the back of this PCB is making that look terrible, but yeah, I've removed the flux residue there, so we've got some nice shiny solder joins. So that's now a nice solid USB port. So there we have it, folks. That is the Sequre S99 soldering iron. And as I say, for a hobbyist solderer who wants to buy a decent iron that doesn't break the bank, this is probably my weapon of choice right now. It's easy to point people in the direction of stations like the Aixon T3B and so on. Those are about sort of, $100, $120 if my memory serves me. So we're up in a different price bracket with those. They're excellent stations, but if you're looking for something that's really cheap, with a starting price of about $30, this guy's excellent bang for buck. And while that start price of $30 doesn't include the charger or anything like that, if you've got an existing 65-watt power adapter, which, if you've got a high-end phone, you might have one of those, or if you have a laptop that powers from Type-C, you might have one of those. Most hobbyists probably have a power delivery adapter kicking around somewhere. You already have most of what you need to get started with this guy, and it's just $30. I really like the interface for it. I think my only criticism is it would be nice to have some kind of rubber grip on it. That's one thing that I do like about the Pine-Sil and most other irons. You get like a rubber grip, which gives you a bit more confidence. But, that's nothing that couldn't easily be added yourself after the fact. But yeah, a nice thing that they could have included. Other than that, I think that's a great iron. I like it a lot. And this would be my recommendation for someone's first starter soldering iron that's still got enough grunt and some expandability with powerful tips in the future. If you want to learn more or buy one of these, check out my affiliate links that'll be down in the description below. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.